Hey everybody, welcome to another Carcast episode. This is a Carcast pit stop with the beautiful and lovely Simmone Park.
Carcast.
Oh shit. And once again, we're just going to dive into the conversation that we were having just now. And yes, so Simmone, tell me a little more of what you were talking about.
Well, I had a really great opportunity last night to be part of something called Artery. And so it's just people coming together and sharing their stories in somebody's home. It was kind of last minute, and you know, I said yes, and I wound up meeting incredible people. And I certainly didn't have a polished story to tell, and I was kind of just vibing off of what the other speaker had talked about, and I feel like somehow it managed to flow really well. And my main message yesterday was that the more you open up and share your story, especially when it comes to things that you were previously ashamed about or felt a lot of guilt with regards to, or it just was kind of holding you back, there's something very liberating about talking about that story. And I think the more that you share it, the more that you put it out there, it frees you from the guilt and the shame behind it and the disappointment and all of these not so positive attributes of hiding that story and keeping it inside of you. And I honestly believe that when you keep those things, or you like bury things down, like it turns into disease, and it turns into like tumors and cancer, and like manifests as all this like negativity that's being balled up and kept inside. So, you know, I guess it's kind of like gas, you just gotta let it out. I'm just kidding.
Sometimes it's just better out than in. But it is true. And one of, like, you know, it's kind of interesting, the more that I realize that, the more it brings me back to 8 Mile with Eminem. Do you remember that?
I do.
So in the movie, what happens is he's freestyling and he's going against all these people, and on one of the last battles he's like, okay, well, I know you're going to use everything negative about my life against me, so why don't I say first? And he spits it out and he says it all, and he takes ownership, and he just lays it all out there, and the person, when it's their turn, they're just like, I don't know what to do. And then after that scene, you can see how freeing it was for him to move away from it, because he's like, that is no longer me. Like, all those things don't define me. All those things were my past. What defines me is my present, and how I move forward from all those things that I learned from the past, because there were lessons. You go to French class, you're not like, oh my God, I'm French for the rest of my life. No, you go to French class, you learn French, you move on, if you learn French. Or you go to a class and you move on. Pretty much your past is just the classroom that you've learned things, and your choice is what you want to take as you move forward to other places, or as you graduate to other places within your life. And I really do believe that when we put out our story and we share a little more, we start to realize that it was never the story that was holding us back. It was ourselves. It was the fear of what people might say, what people might think. And we realized that it was more that we were not living our lives because we were afraid of what other people might think about our life. So we were stopping our life because what other people might think about us, when all those other people are thinking the exact same thing. But yet when we share our story, we give them permission, we free ourselves, and then all of a sudden, you know, people have this ability to realize that, oh my God, I'm not my story, I'm not my past, I shouldn't be ashamed, I shouldn't blame myself. So yeah, it gives out a lot of traction that I do believe, put it out there. Say your thing. I've shared a lot of times in the videos, like, I used to drink, I used to do drugs, I used to run away from the police, I used to do a lot of stuff, but those things don't define me. What those things have taught me was why I was doing it. Why did I do those things? What was I looking for? Because at the end, at the bottom of the bottle, I thought that's where I was. But if the bottle was making me special, it wasn't the bottle that was making me special, because it's like you have to keep on buying it and buying it. It was not the bottle that made me special, it was the person holding the bottle. Because all it was doing was bringing out more of me, and sometimes a little too much of me, and sometimes parts that I didn't even recognize of myself. But in all cases, it was not that I had a problem with the drinks. It's the fact is I put myself in a situation where I didn't fit in, and then I tried to drink to force myself to fit in, and then made me feel uncomfortable, and then I didn't want to share, and then I don't know, it was,
because it wasn't really you.
It was me trying to be something that I wasn't, and trying to live up to other people's expectations of what I was. But the thing is, I was just assuming, and I thought that's the way that it should have been. You were telling me before, you were saying like last night when you were at this event, you were sharing a little more about your story, and tell me a little more about that.
About the story?
Yeah, about your story, about releasing it, the shame, the guilt, and all these things that have been attached or were attached.
I've been posting a lot about different facets of my story. And I think the most interesting thing was that, a lot of people were saying that it helped them. I think you shared it, and there was somebody that commented, and, when people share, I think it gives other people permission to take a look at what's happened to them in their life, and maybe take a deeper look and examine, wow, well, this person was willing to put that out there and be vulnerable, so maybe I could do that too, even if they didn't go through the same thing. I think that's incredibly powerful, to help everybody. Everybody has been through trauma. To say that there's somebody out there that has never experienced any hardship is lying. Life happens, and I do believe that happiness is a choice. Yes, there are things that can happen that are not so desirable, but it's how we choose to view the things that happen, and maybe change the perspective on what's actually going on. And that we are still very lucky and blessed. And that, something for us here in North America, I feel like no matter how difficult things seem, I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that 99% of the world would be ecstatic to switch places with us. We really do have it very, very good. Now, something that was a little bit sad in my eyes, after I shared a video called This Is Me, where I did share very openly about my experience and how it affected me, my own mother was really, really angry at that fact, and she asked me to take it down. She probably disowned me again. She disowns me so often, I don't even really know what that means, but I think that is because she is still holding on to something that may have happened to her, and is not willing to share, not willing to open up, not willing to even face that herself. And when we do that, we give so much of our power away, right? So when I'm thinking about the story that you're talking about, the 8 Mile with Eminem, I'm wondering if bullying could be helped if you were able to, take away the power that they have. The bullies thrive on knowing that they're hurting somebody. Well, when they're doing it psychologically and not physically, obviously, if they're beating you, that's a different case, but a bully thrives on knowing that they are hurting you emotionally and mentally. And so if someone were to just be like, you're right, I am totally this way, and, just not really having a reaction and just being like, oh, you're right, eventually they're gonna just give up, because they need that power that idea that they're like taking your power, and if you don't give it to them and there's actually nothing that they can get, I feel like that would kind of stop it in the tracks. Same thing goes for what is it called? Bribery. Bribery usually can only function if somebody doesn't want the truth to come out, or doesn't want whatever they're holding over your head to come out. So if you are the one who is willing to openly share and give your side of the story, because another thing is if they go, they can essentially say anything they want about you, right? And like in Korea, your reputation, or what other people think of you, which is probably why my mother's acting this way, still in that Korean mindset, it's not, you are not who you say you are. You are who other people say you are. But don't we know ourselves better than anybody else? Right? So who gives somebody else the right to determine who we are? So I think the more that you like authentically and honestly put yourself out there, and not who you think that you should be, not this faking it till you make it, but just like being honest and open, I think you reclaim a lot of your essence and your power back, and that's great.
I agree. There's a saying, they say that to avoid conflict, to make peace with somebody else, only starts a war inside yourself. I'm not against helping other people, making people feel good, but I'm not doing it at my own expense. I'm not doing it at my own, pushing down my story and feeling shame and guilt and blame and not worthy and value. It's not going to happen.
Jeez, welcome to like most of my life.
Welcome to most people's lives when it comes to it. The things that like older construct from what parents used to say and how they believe that the way that you look outside of the world is so important. I agree that reputation can be very important, but not if it's killing your own ideas, not if you're not in sync with who you are. When you start to progress in a way that you put out what you think the world is, and yet the world inside you put out in a different way, well, what happens is those two worlds will have a conflict. I remember when I was in high school, I'm like, well, I can't be friends with this group and this group because I'm two different people. And like, I started creating these crazy stories that made me crazy, where I'm like, I can only be friends with them and I can't be friends with them and they can't be in the same place. And like, I created these elaborate stories of why these two groups couldn't be with each other because they can't find out who I really am. And only to realize that was all in my head. I designed this whole idea within my head that what I am with one person, it doesn't mean that. It's like if you have your sports friends, you're talking about your sports and things like that, and then you have your other friends, you're talking about other things. It doesn't mean that you're showing them this is the only way I am with you guys, the only way I'm with somebody else. You have different aspects and facets of yourself that other certain people bring it out, and there's nothing wrong with that, and there's no shame of that. But holding things in secretly and not sharing, when you share your story with the world, you share more of who you are. It doesn't even mean with the world, it could just be with a friend. You really get to see who will stay in your life and who will go. Because I will never, ever live my life ever again with trying to hold on to friendships that I'm worried that, well, if they only knew this about me or they knew that about me. No, man, I want everybody to know everything about me. I think that's the only way that I can live, I can grow, I can understand myself, because it's like, what was it, Fight Club? The things that you own end up owning you. So if you own your own story, then nothing really owns you. If you put it out there, then nothing can really harm you. If you take ownership of it, you got to understand. And listen, you might have cheated, you might have done something wrong, but you got to understand that you can forgive, be forgiven, and forgive yourself. That nobody has that ideal, perfect thing or situation where they've either stolen, they've cheated, they've done something wrong, and that is all part of the growing process of life.
Absolutely.
And to hold that back and be like, well, what's wrong with me? It's like, I would, why would I do that? Well, you did that and you learned from it. Now own it.
We're human. I mean, we're gonna do things that we're not proud of, and hopefully that'll be enough for us to understand why we did it and then choose not to do it again. Or maybe we'll keep doing it, and then it'll take us a while before we figure that out.
That's so cool.
Choo choo.
Choo choo. I also think that if you are with a friend and they share things personally and it triggers you, it's not them, it's yourself. And you gotta ask yourself the question of, why is this triggering me? Why does this bother me internally? What is the issue that I have with this for myself? Because when people are sharing a problem, the idea, I believe, in relationships, friendships, relationships, is it's not his problem, it's not her problem, it's the problem. And what about the problem is the problem, is bothering you, triggering you, making you feel a certain way. To better understand that kind of helps you out. And I really do believe that when you give yourself permission, like it's such a crazy concept. It's like at some point in life we felt that permission was taken away from us and we must be given permission to do certain things in our life. Well, here and now and in this moment, you can give yourself permission to be whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Give it back to yourself. Give yourself permission to laugh, to cry, to feel the way you want, to do whatever it is you need to do, to heal, to feel, to be whatever it is you want, to share your story and to put it out there. Nowadays with social media and platforms, there are so many things to share, and there's so many ways for people to share and to share their story and aspects of their story and different versions of it, that like having the camera in front of you and being like, I'm so good and I'm so perfect and I am this way, that's fine, but I see you and I know that it's not. And I know that you have those feelings and you have those emotions. If you say you're always happy, what you're going to do is you're going to drown yourself in the days when you're not, because you're like, but I told everybody I'm this way and I can't be this way. What you are is you're, like Simmone said, you're human. You have feelings, you have emotions, right?
I think it's so important to honor whatever emotion that you're feeling at the time. Of course, we're all striving for happiness, that's the goal, but if you're feeling sad or depressed one day and you're just like, no, but I'm happy, and it's like totally fake, that's not good. Just be like, okay, I'm sad today. I feel depressed today. Actually, I think that's important to not say I am sad, I'm feeling sad. Like, don't put all of that on yourself. It's very important, the things that you say after the words I am. But if you're feeling sad and you're feeling depressed, say, okay, there's a reason why I'm feeling this way. I'm going to be in that. I'm going to honor it. I'm going to figure out what the heck is going on. And then you're going to release it, hopefully.
Sit with your emotions.
Absolutely.
But just understand that it's just the emotion, not I am the emotion.
Yes.
And it's very important. Like, I have days where I feel depressed and I'm like, okay, so hi depression, you're here today. What does depression do for me? Oh, it allows me to write, it allows me to be creative. It's a way for me to say, hey, stop, relax, recharge, and take a breath. Every emotion, if you actually look at them and speak to them, you start to realize that within them, you can actually make them very productive and you can really understand it. Instead of being like, I am this, so what is wrong with me? Instead of being like, this emotion is here, what can I learn from it today? And sometimes, if there's nothing to learn, you just sit with it, man. Just take a moment and just be like, you know what? I'm just gonna have one of those days. And also honor it, the fact that speak your truth. Like, sometimes a friend will call me and be like, dude, how you doing today? I'm like, honestly, I'm kind of feeling a little depressed today. And they'll be like, what's up? I'm like, you know what? I really don't know what it is, but I'm gonna take some me time. Instead of being like, oh man, I'm great, things are great.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to lie to myself ever again. I've done that, and I've lied to myself, and I put on that face, and I've come into public, and I've created the anxiety, and I've created very uncomfortable situations because I didn't honor myself. I'm going to honor myself. I'm going to say it, just like you guys should honor yourself. and you should just say it, because it's just so much more freeing.
It really is, right?
Yeah.
Liberate yourself.
Liberate yourself.
Free the nipple. No, I'm just kidding. That's a different thing.
That's a video for another day on another channel with a different person.
Oh God. Oh boy.
But it is freeing, you know. It's like, if you really, like, no joke, like freeing the nipple, and the idea of just like, if you want to express yourself in the way that you want, then do it. Whether you're freeing the nipple, somebody's going to censor you. Whether you're sharing your happiness, somebody's going to censor you. Whether you talk about your happiness, your sadness, people will censor you. It doesn't matter.
Do you. Be
but
you.
It's like if you are this beautiful stream of feeling and emotions and life, and every time you feel that you're flowing or there's something going on, and you keep on pulling up rocks, what you do is you start to create a dam. And when you create that dam, the water, the emotions, life doesn't stop. But life will find little ways to peek through the holes till eventually it built up enough pressure and poof, it explodes. And I've been to those days where it's just like the dam exploded and I'm like, oh my God, and I can't breathe. And man, those days are hard. Because even when we're younger, nobody talks about this shit. Nobody tells us about this stuff. You want to teach me about math and science and all these things, great, but also teach me about the human emotion and tell me that it's okay to have feelings. Tell me it's okay to be myself. Tell me it's okay to think the way that we think, to feel the way we feel. Tell me that I have worth. Tell me I have value. Not only if I do one thing, but if I'm willing to explore and to explore in whichever way I choose. Show me that I'm worthy of love, that I have love, that I can give love, and don't say that it needs to be only a certain way, or show me videos depicting this is what love is and this is how it only is. Tell me that there's different ways of expressing ourselves, of feeling ourselves, of being ourselves, because when we start to understand that our feelings, that we literally are a rainbow of emotions, and the fact that every single light on the spectrum of our rainbow makes up the beautiful rainbow itself, instead of just saying that you can only be one, then what a beautiful and colorful world we end up living in, right?
Absolutely. Oh, I wish I could just hug every child and be like, you are so worthy and loved. And I actually did that with my inner child. I was crying because to go back and just be like, none of it was your fault and you can let it go. So maybe that's something that people can try to do, is to forgive yourself.
I think that's really good. Like I said a little earlier, was to forgive, be forgiven, forgive yourself. And we should, let me take back the word, we can speak to our past. We can speak to the things that we've done. I know that when you speak to your past, you really free yourself in the present to be whatever you want in the future. And I say that, and I've said that many times, it's true. If I did not do all the things I did when I was younger, go through those emotions, depression, suicidal thought, bulimia, drugs, drinking, then I would not be where I am today.
Absolutely.
And every day I honor that young person, because you went through so much of that pain and that suffering and that confusion and that darkness. And because of that, I can be where I am today. Because of that, I can feel, I can love, I can express, I can meet amazing people, I can have the life that I'm living, because you went through that. I don't shame myself, I don't blame myself, I honor myself for that. So yes, I fully agree, speak to that inner child, and sometimes go to a park like we're at and just do somersaults and roll on the grass and get dirty and have fun, and like
the importance of playing, like
playful, man, for sure.
All I want to do.
I think like we get to a certain age where it's just like we forget, like we remember, it's like, oh, it doesn't have to be this way. Fuck, right? I can just do whatever I want and be playful and enjoy things a little more.
Yeah.
But yeah, like honestly, don't be so hard on yourself as well. Forgive. learn, move. If there's somebody that did harm to you, forgive them. As much as it seems like, no, I don't want to, because let it go.
It's probably not hurting them or affecting them. It's just hurting yourself.
Well, the Buddhist belief is, it's like to hold anger is it's like there's two sayings. There's like to hold anger, it's like holding a hot coal in your hand and wishing it will burn the other person. And then there's the other saying, it's like putting poison in your own food
and expecting them to die.
Exactly. Yeah. Not gonna happen. This is your life. You need to take responsibility, accountability, forgiveness. You got to give yourself love. You got to put yourself out there. If you're in situations that you don't like, ask yourself questions, live, learn, understand. And there's so many people out there that are doing the same thing. And I say this a lot. It's like, you're not alone. You're not alone.
You got us.
We're not too bad. But you're not alone. And one of my favorite sayings is, don't ever make yourself small to make other people seem big.
Oh God. I know this is a conversation for another time, but like in every relationship, it's like, oh no, don't want to bruise his poor ego, so let me make myself smaller. And you know what? I absolutely, now that I know who I am and I actually love myself and I see my worth, I will never again make myself smaller just so a man doesn't feel like less of a man or whatever. You know what? I'm going to put up and hang that photo myself, and I'm going to drive stick, or I'm going to do all these things that like, oh no, you don't know how to do that? Oh no. Sorry, I just need somebody who's stronger. Anywho.
I fully agree. And trying to make yourself seem bigger does not make yourself bigger. It's not about making somebody feel bad. It's not about to make other people feel bad, to make yourself feel better. It will not happen, because everything will come around. And I'm not speaking about karma. I'm speaking about a lot of the energies, a lot of the people, a lot of those feelings, things will have its way of showing itself again.
And similarly, if you make people feel better, it like strangely comes back to you. And again, it's not necessarily a karma thing, but like you can pull people up instead of trying to push them down,
But it's the old saying that, you reap what you sow.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that you want to put in the earth? What is it that you want to harvest from the earth? What is it that you want to grow and cultivate and have within your life? Because the more we put that and the more we surround ourselves with that, the more we'll be able to literally live a life full of abundance. And if you start to think about it in the way, well, I can't do it. Well, think about it like this. You've already done it. The situation you're in, with the people you're in, you created that.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you have the ability to take that apart or leave it and move over and go to another plot of land and start farming and putting other seeds.
Mm-hmm.
You can do whatever you choose to do, but you have to be accountable for it. You have to be aware of it. You have to understand, what is it that I want? What are my goals? What are my passion? What am I looking for? Understand that your feelings are not you. You need to do a little bit of the work for you to better understand it. Because how will you know that you want change unless you sit down and understand why it is you're feeling a certain way and what it is that you're seeking within your life? I think it's very good. Yeah. Is it? That's cool.
That might be a good time to...
Is this the ending? Like the ending
I think this might be the ending music.
Well, anyways, that was great. Like I said, I really did enjoy the conversation today.
Me too.
Because I really do believe that permission, giving ourselves permission, not feeling shame and blame, and understanding that our past does not define our present, but we define our present, and we can make our past whatever lessons that we need to, is so important.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Maybe if you guys, need someone to support you or just like to talk to, he's like, just her, because she's the one who said
Both
it.
of us.
Both of us.
But that's it. It's just like when we say that, we really mean, like, reach out, send a message, talk to us, because we're just like you.
And you're not alone.
Oh, you're not alone. Always remember that.
Yeah.
So,
Heart.
Awesome. Yeah. Upside down heart. Beautiful. All right, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.